It's your girl, Mrs. Tony Two Times, and I'm back with another episode of Hood Tales. In this video, let's take it to Birmingham, Alabama, to talk about a case that left an entire family devastated, sparked intense debate across social media, and raised difficult questions about relationships, accountability, and how quickly emotions can spiral out of control. This is the story of Justina Wallace, Aaniyah Nowden, and the man whose connection to both women would ultimately place everyone on a path that ended in tragedy. But before we get into this video, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Stay tuned until the end to hear the full story. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. Before we get into what happened, let's first talk about who Justina Wallace was. Justina Zanola Wallace was 36 years old, born on February 2nd, 1987 in Faunsdale, Alabama. She later spent time in Florida before ultimately making her way back to Alabama to attend Miles College. Justina was known for her incredibly boisterous, outgoing, and outspoken personality. Family members described Justina as ambitious, determined, and fearless when it came to expressing herself. If something was on her mind, she wasn't the type to keep quiet about it. She was someone who truly wasn't afraid to speak her mind. Above anything else, she was also a fiercely devoted mother. Justina had 5 children and was expecting another child. Family members said her children were the center of her world and that much of what she did revolved around trying to build a better life for them. Like many people, Justina wasn't perfect. Records show she had previous encounters with law enforcement, including an arrest in 2022 involving a fugitive from justice charge. But those who knew her say she was focused on moving forward and creating opportunities for herself and her family. Her sister later described her as someone who worked hard every day and wanted more for her children. Though she didn't finish college during her first stretch, she was a fighter who was always trying to build a better life. In fact, she had recently re-enrolled at Miles College with big plans to pursue a degree in business management so she could open up her very own boutique. Justina also started several businesses and side hustles. Justina prided herself on being independent and having the ability to provide for herself and her children on her own. Her core focus was working hard every single day to provide a bright future for her family. Now let's talk about the other woman involved in this case. Born May 21st, 2022, Aaniyah Nowden was significantly younger than Justina. Years before this case involving Aaniyah would make headlines, Aaniyah had her own challenges. Reports show she was listed as a missing juvenile in Birmingham back in March 2018 when she was just 15 years old. By 2023, 20-year-old Aaniyah was a young mother and was also expecting a child with a man a decade older than her. She was young, impressionable, and by the summer of 2023, she was 8 months pregnant, navigating a deeply complicated adult world. So how did these two women cross paths? To begin to understand how these two women ended up on this collision course together, we have to talk about the common denominator between them, a man named Noland Moore. According to reports, Noland was the father of Justina's 2-year-old daughter Sky, and he was the father of the baby Annayiah was due to give birth to. That connection created a complicated situation. Managing a blended dynamic like that is tough under the best of circumstances, but when responsibility falls by the wayside, things can get incredibly tense. By July of 2023, tensions reportedly existed between the two women, and much of that tension centered around issues involving Noland and his responsibilities as a father. That tension boiled over on Friday evening, July 7th, 2023. Justina decided to go over to Annayiah's home at an apartment complex in the Norwood community to confront Noland and Annayiah. The core of the issue? Noland's alleged lack of support for the 2-year-old daughter he shared with Justina. Justina arrived holding her toddler daughter Sky in her arms, while 2 of her young sons, ages 8 and 9, stood right by her side. When Justina arrived, an argument broke out outside the apartment. Noland was right there in the middle of it all. As the voices grew louder, neighbors and bystanders began gathering around. Witnesses described an argument that quickly became heated. But instead of de-escalating the situation, the crowd did the opposite. Some bystanders reportedly began encouraging the 2 pregnant women to physically fight, even callously telling Justina to set her toddler down on the ground so they could square off. And since we live in an era where people document everything for social media, several onlookers pulled out their cell phones and started recording the confrontation, probably expecting it to just be another viral video of a neighborhood argument. The argument continued escalating. Voices were raised, emotions were intensified. But nobody anticipated how quickly or terribly the situation would escalate. The entire atmosphere shifted immediately. Within moments, words turned into an absolute tragedy. Annayiah pointed a firearm at Justina and pulled the trigger, striking her directly in the head. What makes this so devastating is that Justina was still holding her 2-year-old baby girl in her arms when it happened, and her young sons witnessed the entire thing unfold just feet away. First responders rushed to the scene just before 7 p.m. and found Justina lying on the ground, completely unresponsive. She was rushed to UAB Hospital, where a medical team worked desperately to save her. Meanwhile, investigators began trying to piece together exactly what had happened. Family members spent the night hoping for positive news. Doctors were running tests to check for brain activity. Tragically, the damage was too severe. The following afternoon, Justina passed away from her injuries, taking the unborn life she was carrying with her. The news sent shockwaves through her family and the Birmingham community. Her loved ones suddenly found themselves planning a funeral while simultaneously trying to comfort and bring understanding to Justina's kids. And perhaps one of the most heartbreaking details is what happened just days later. Justina's daughter Sky was scheduled to celebrate her 2nd birthday. Family and friends considered canceling the party because of everything that had happened, but ultimately they decided to move forward. They threw a beautiful yet bittersweet birthday party filled with balloons, presents, and photos of Justina, focusing entirely on keeping the spirits of the kids uplifted. As her friend put it, Justina always did everything big, and they wanted to keep that energy alive for her kids. Loved ones said they believed that's what Justina would have wanted. As the family mourned, investigators continued building their case. Police quickly detained Aaniyah Nowden and Noland Moore for questioning following the incident. Eventually, prosecutors moved forward with serious charges against Annayiah. Authorities pursued capital hit charges under Alabama law. She was taken into custody and booked into Jefferson County Jail without bond. While awaiting her day in court, Annayiah actually gave birth to her baby behind bars. As the case moved through the court system, public opinion became sharply divided. Some people argued that words alone never justify taking a life. Others focused on claims that tensions between the women had escalated significantly before the confrontation. The first attempt to try the case in early May 2026 ended in a mistrial due to jury selection issues. The case finally went to trial a couple weeks later, where the defense argued that Annayiah acted entirely in self-defense. They claimed Justina arrived in a highly aggressive, belligerent state and that an 8-month pregnant Annayiah genuinely feared for her life. However, prosecutors pushed back hard, using the cell phone video to show that Justina was completely unarmed and holding a baby, arguing that you do not get to take a life just because someone is yelling at you. Justina's 2 young sons even had to take the stand to testify about what they saw happen to their mother. After a 10-day trial, the jury reached a verdict. They found Annayiah guilty of 1 capital offense in connection to ending Justina's life. Jurors rejected the other capital counts that could have landed Annayiah with the ultimate life-ending penalty. At just 24 years old, the jury sentenced Annayiah to life in prison without the possibility of parole. For some members of Justina's family, the verdict brought a sense of justice. For others, there was no outcome that could truly repair the damage that had been done. But the story didn't end there. Just days after Annayiah's conviction, another major development occurred. Authorities announced charges against Annayiah's 35-year-old boyfriend, Noland Moore. According to court records, Noland was charged with capital hit in connection with the same case. Prosecutors alleged that he intentionally caused Justina's passing and cited the presence of minors under 14 as the factor supporting the capital charge. As of now, those proceedings are separate and still working their way through the court system. Because that case remains active, any allegations against Noland have yet to be resolved in court. Noland Moore is innocent until proven guilty. Wow, fam, this is such a sad, heartbreaking, and honestly messy story. Looking back on this entire situation, one thing becomes clear. Nobody truly won. A family lost a mother, children lost someone they depend on, another family now faces the reality of a life sentence, and multiple young people will grow up carrying memories and consequences from a moment they should have never witnessed. My condolences go out to Justina's children, family members, and everyone affected by this case. I send them all my well wishes. For Justina's loved ones, the pain continues long after the headlines fade away, I'm sure. And by all accounts, she loved her children deeply and had plans for her future. Now, whether people agreed with her actions that day or not, her family remembers her as a mother, sister, daughter, and friend whose absence continues to be felt. And as for Annayiah, her actions that day were evil. But I also see her as a very misguided young woman who found herself surrounded by bad influences. I hope one day she truly understands the gravity of what she did and seeks forgiveness. Both of these women acted in pride and anger, and they allowed Noland and his actions or lack thereof to influence how they chose to handle the situation. Now, fam, I want to hear from you. Do you believe this was a clear case of self-defense, or do you agree with the jury's verdict? And looking at Noland's recent arrest 3 years later, what are your thoughts on his arrest? Do you think Noland Moore's role in this situation deserves more attention? And what can people learn from this situation? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, but please keep the discussion respectful. All right, fam, that's it for this episode of Hood Tales. Thank you so much for watching. If this story moved you, consider liking and sharing. Subscribe for more stories like this. This is your girl, Mrs. Tony 2 times. Until next time.